Mount Whanganui Borough Reclamation and Empowering Act Repeal Bill, introduction.
That bill is set down for first reading. The House now comes to questions for oral answer, and the first question stands in the name of the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This question is to the Prime Minister. Does he have confidence in the Minister of Finance?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
How can he have confidence in the Minister of Finance when, despite warnings from Treasury, he agreed to let South Canterbury finance into the extended Crown Retail Deposit Guarantee Scheme, resulting in losses of hundreds and hundreds of millions to the taxpayers of New Zealand?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's worth pointing out for a start off that South Canterbury Finance effectively fell over under the old scheme. That was a scheme put together by the Labor Party on the eve of their campaign launch, supported by Winston Peters.
Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters. Order. Point of order has been called. Mr.
Speaker, I emphasised in my question the word extended Crown Retail Deposit Scheme, which happened under his government, not under Mr Cullen and Labor.
The member's point is a fair one, that his question did specifically ask about the extended scheme. I would ask the Right Honourable Prime Minister to come to that in his answer, please.
Mr. Speaker, because it wouldn't have made any difference. If there hadn't been an extension for the scheme, South Canterbury Finance would have gone and solved it immediately.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Supplementary question. He got rid of you.
Order. Would the member please just ask his supplementary question?
We all know how, don't we? Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. How can the Prime Minister have confidence in the Minister of Finance when, by his own projections, debt will continue to grow under his national government for the next 5 years to at least $75 billion?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what's true is that we inherited a recession from the Labor government propped up by New Zealand First in 2008. What's true is that we inherited from a Labor government propped up by New Zealand First in a mess of an economy with programs that were unaffordable and unworkable. And, Mr. Speaker, what's true is we inherited a deposit guarantee scheme announced on the eve of the Labor Party conference, probably to try and defer public comment away from the problems that the then Foreign Minister was having before he stood down.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
What a mess that was. Supplementary question. How can he have confidence in the Minister of Finance when GDP growth has averaged a pathetic 0.8% over the last 3 years? Public debt has increased over 700%, and 1,000 New Zealanders a week are leaving for Australia.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let's take up that point of government debt, because what is true is this government has run debt over the last 3 or 4 years and will for the next couple of years in order to take the rough edges off the recession. So if Winston Peters wants to tell New Zealanders to slash healthcare, slash superannuation, slash welfare retirement...
Order. The question did actually ask, how does the Prime Minister have confidence in his Minister of Finance? It didn't actually require the Prime Minister to go into what what Winston Peters may or may not want. And I think the question is certainly seeking opinion, and there's a lot of range in opinion when an opinion is sought, but I don't think it needed quite go down that track. The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Supplementary question. How can the Prime Minister have confidence in the Minister of Finance when he is spending $120 million of taxpayers' money to mount a public relations propaganda campaign to justify selling off assets which, when sold, will leave New Zealand permanently worse off?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for a start off, I'd utterly reject the latter point, and the first point is they are the fees required to release $7 billion worth of capital that would otherwise have to be borrowed from foreigners, and we would have to pay the bond fees relating to those.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Isn't it a fact that this government pre-borrowed and over-borrowed to use these words, against rising interest rates, end of quotes, an explanation that the Prime Minister gave to the public at the time, whereas interest rates have fallen, as has our currency now, which surely means a loss to the New Zealand taxpayer, not a gain? And who was the architect behind this bright speculative idea?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Debt Management Office is responsible for the bond program that we run. But if you want my view, if in going out there and ensuring that New Zealand had a source of liquidity at a time when we were suffering a global financial crisis and the markets were weak, in my view, it's a very sensible thing to do. And if there is a problem in Europe in the next few months, New Zealand being fully funded will be something that will be welcomed by New Zealanders, obviously other than those who are supporters of New Zealand First.
Question number 2, Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is